So I have the pleasure to be talking to Michael Mando today. We've known each other for about 7 years, I guess.
Right.
First time I met you was back in 2013 when you had worked on Far Cry 3. I wasn't a big gamer, but I remember talking to people after saying that I had met the main character of the video game and they were losing it. And I didn't realize how popular you were when it came to the video game world. And then fast forward to my first trip to LA with my son. We go to see Spider-Man Homecoming and you're in the movie. And then all of a sudden I'm watching the prequel to my favorite show ever and you're in Better Call Saul. I want to know, when did you start singing? And when did you know you could sing?
It's so strange, to be honest with you. I posted a video on YouTube. If ever you have a chance, check it out. It's me singing. I'm like 8 years old. Same thing with acting, I never thought of myself ever doing anything of this sort as a career.
Right.
And I never pursued theater or anything like that when I was a child or a teenager, With music, it's kind of funny, it's been a part of my life ever since I can remember. And I've written, over 200-300 songs in my life, but it's never anything I've shared with anybody.
Right.
And I met a wonderful lady called Tage Herring in New York. And she was trying to figure out, she's a publicist, and she was trying to get to know me a little bit. And she asked me if I do any music or anything like that. And I said, yeah, a little bit. I have a lot of songs. Maybe someone would be interested in hearing them. So she said, let me introduce you to my husband. So I go to her husband's house. I go in the basement. He's got like maybe 30, 40 guitars. And as he comes down, I'm staring, and there's this one guitar. It's the color purple.
Yeah.
And it's got a really strange thing at the end of it and stuff. Mm-hmm. And I'm talking to him, and I'm looking at the guitar. I go, is this, who I think it is? He goes, yep, this is Prince's guitar. And or one of the guitars that he played. And anyway, I found out he was Prince's guitarist for like 10 years. And he said, all right, well, let's hear what you got. And I felt immediately embarrassed. And I made him hear a song of mine. And he said, why don't you release it? I said, no, I want you to hear it. And then if you like it, I want you to have other artists sing it. And he said, I'm going to do you a favor, and I'm not going to do that. I'm going to have you sing it. So we recorded something for fun. And then I was in LA at a restaurant with a friend of mine, and I was making him hear what I had just recorded in LA. And this woman says to me, that sounds pretty good. My husband's a producer. So
it's like, this is
it
all
was just like the weirdest thing, man. Yeah. And I'm watching a movie the night before I go to meet her husband. And in the movie, it says, the guy asks the girl, what was the #1 hit song the day you were born? And I thought, man, I wonder what's the #1 hit song the day I was born. I look it up. I go to that second meeting. I meet a guy by the name of Val Garay. And when I use his restroom, there's a big gold disc with We Are the World with Michael Jackson and Quincy Jones. Okay. I walk back to his studio, and I realize he's got a Grammy.
Right.
And guess what he won the Grammy for? The #1 song in the world the day I was born.
No.
I swear to God.
That's creepy.
It's called Betty Davis's Eyes.
Yeah, of course. Yeah, Kim Carnes.
And Val Garay produced that. Yeah. And wow. Here I am. And Val's worked with Quincy Jones, who I think is one of the greatest producers ever. Michael Jackson, who I grew up sort of. Michael Jackson was the beginning and the ending of music for me. And then, of course, Prince. And all these people are telling me you've got to release your own music. And it took me 2 years after that before this is 2 years ago, or 3 years ago, 2017. Then we're shooting Better Call Saul. And my father, I find out he's got terminal cancer. And we're in about episode 2 of Better Call Saul. And right. It's crazy because in the show, I'm trying to save my father. And in real life, I found out, my father has a very difficult situation. And I start walking at night on the weekends to clear my mind, but I just sit by a lamppost and I watch street musicians.
Yeah.
And they're singing next to bars and kind of a little tipsy, and I say to myself, man, I would give anything to just go out there with those guys and sing and just let this out and just connect with other people. As I'm walking away from them, I think to myself, one day I'll have the courage to do that. And then I stop and I say, why don't I do it right now? I go back, I buy these guys a slice of pizza and a beer. I have a hat and glasses on because everybody in Albuquerque knows the show. So I didn't want to be recognized. And I sing with them for about 3-4 hours until about 3 in the morning. And we got a nice crowd gathering up, and we're kind of jamming and being silly and all that stuff. And I go home and I say to myself, man, what are the reasons that I'm not doing this? Like, what is really stopping me from doing this?
Yeah.
And I couldn't think of anything. You know, there's obviously the fear that they won't be well received or anything like that. But that's not enough to stop you from doing anything, you know?
Yeah.
So I wrote this song while I was there. The first verse is dedicated to my dad. The second verse is to my mother. And I decided I was going to release an EP. And with my luck, I bump into all of Céline Dion's musicians.
Yeah.
It's just like, you got Prince, you got Michael Jackson, you got Val Garay with Betty Davis's Eyes, and then you got Céline Dion's musicians.
Yeah.
They're all on the track.
Yeah.
All her guitarist, her bassist, her drummer.
Everyone's lined up. It's lined up for you, man.
It's just, man, I was just like, man, you got no excuse. Yeah. We start producing the track. I do the Seth Meyers show in New York. I come back to Canada, and then I can't go to the studio. That morning that I'm supposed to go and record my vocals, I realized that I have to be in quarantine. And I'm going, oh my God, man, this is never gonna happen, you know. And then I decide, with the help of my business partner, and she's a wonderful French lady called Berenice, and she says, no, we're gonna do it. You're gonna do it from home. And I go, I'm renting this place and I can't do it here. And she goes, no, we'll turn this room into a studio. I'm like, what are you talking about? We got a sound card and a preamp, and they taught me how to use Pro Tools through the internet, and I learned how to use Logic, and I read about producing and mixing. And then, so I recorded the Wild One right here in this little room myself. And now I'm finishing the second and third track.
So this is literally a social isolation project.
You know what? It didn't start like that.
But it's finishing like that.
It's definitely finishing like that. And now, and to be honest with you, look, man, we're talking music, and I don't know who's watching and how many people are watching, but it doesn't matter. I'm talking to you and whoever's watching. And I'm going to tell you this, man. Like, not to get too existential here, but life is short. It really is. And it passes by fast.
Yep.
And before you know it, it's over. As I'm getting older and wiser and calmer, and I'm dealing with my father's situation and my situation, I realize, you know, man, like, what would stop you from doing what you love? That's what the Wild One is. You know, that's why I called it the Wild One. It's that desire to you know, the first line is, everything that I've ever dreamed of, suddenly so clear.
Yeah.
My father's eyes cry in grievance. I'm not alone in my fears.
Everything that I've ever dreamed of, suddenly so clear. My father's eyes cry in grievance. I'm not alone in my fears.
And that's why I love hearing stories about guys like you who have already had a certain amount of success, but say to yourself, you know, I want to try something different. I don't want to just keep myself inside of a box. You know, why can't you be a musician? You know, and a lot of people will say, well, he's an actor. He can't be a singer. He can't do both. That's not true. I imagine when you got involved with Better Call Saul, had you been a fan of Breaking Bad before that?
I had not seen Breaking Bad before that. I had seen the last 2 episodes of Breaking Bad at my father's house, and I knew it was a great show, and I saw the name Vince Gilligan, and I thought to myself, you know, it's funny, we're talking about fate. It keeps coming back, you know. I thought to myself, remember that name. And 2 weeks later, I get an audition, and the name Vince is on there.
Yeah, and you were like, oh, man.
but you know what's funny? All those things, all those stories that I'm telling you, always had a tremendous amount of struggle after that moment.
Yeah, of
like,
course.
For example, when I did my audition, they were supposed to get it the night before. There was like some kind of like a tight deadline. I don't know if it was in New York or LA or whatever it was. And I remember doing the audition, being happy with it, and then coming back home later at night to edit it and send it out before the morning. And when I was editing it, because I wanted to pick, like, we kind of did it a couple of times and there was 2 scenes to do in 2 different ways. So I had to pick the best scenes. I couldn't hear because there was no sound. I forgot to record the sound. There was a problem. So I had to call like 2-3 people in the middle of the night and get them to come to my house. And they arrived by the time the sun was rising, and we redid the audition and resent it, you know? So there's always struggles, you know, there's always little things. I mean, that's not the end of the world in terms of an audition for Vince Gilligan. But so the reason why I'm saying that is because people out there, you know, don't despair right away. Right. Nothing comes easy, you know, you got to work for it.
So what's the next song that you're going to launch? Do you know?
So there's 3 songs of this EP. The Wild One is the breaking away, you know, it's the saying I'm going to be my own man, I'm going to ride into the sunset, and I'm going to go to the heart of the forest and through. And it's that declaration of independence. It's got sort of like a kind of sad anthem of someone realizing I'm done, you know? The second song that I'm going to release in about 2-3 weeks is that night, that long night alone in the forest in the night. And in that night, you're sort of, and I'm speaking figuratively, not, you know, it's not literal, right?
Yeah.
And in that night that you meet this demon, and the demon is a lover in the form of a lover. And that demon is tearing you apart, and you've got to make love to that demon and seduce that demon in a way that demon's going to let you go. Okay. And then the third song is the sunrise, and then you're back into the light. And they're all figurative. They're just moods, you know, they're feelings. And it's about breaking away, you know. I feel like this is a new chapter in my life. Yeah, definitely. And I think that, you know, reading comments and stuff and hearing the reaction so far, because it's only been maybe 4 or 5 days that people have been able to hear the song, the reaction is really positive. Man, I've been blown away by how much people love it. And, you know, it's just like you think about doing it and you debate on it, and people say, yeah, I like it, and your friends say they like it, and everyone says maybe you should do it. And, you know, I'm someone who's full of doubt and full of fear, but I think I'm someone who, like, I can't sleep at night. I still have to do it. And the response is so overwhelming. I feel like I'm in a dream, you know. Now, quickly, I got to ask you this, because if I'm a card-carrying nerd, and if I didn't ask you this when I had you on the phone or on the Skype or on whatever we're doing right now, I would lose all my stripes. What's going on with Scorpion? Oh, man. Look, here's what I can tell you. Spider-Man is one of the greatest superheroes ever. Tom Holland is a kick-ass dude. And Zendaya, you know, she's wonderful. And John Watts, the director. And I love all these people's work, and I think they're all brilliant. And to be a part of it is something that I'm very excited for. And we'll see where it goes. Cool. Thank you so much for taking the time to talk to us today. And I'm looking forward to catching up and seeing where this whole journey brings you. God bless you, man. Take care, brother.